I'm so happy. And why did it take you 5 years? You know, why did you allow yourself to suffer, you know, or get a divorce or whatever it may be? Why suffer for so long? Why not step up into your courage? But instead, the negative energy of complaining is one of 8 courage killers. A couple of others are complacency, conformity, cynicism. They all start with a C.
Oh, nice. So I have a question for you. It seems like this all starts around courage consciousness, being aware of, first, what courage is, and then second, being aware of how we sabotage ourselves, and also being aware that most women do not see themselves as courageous. It seems like having those pieces of the puzzle initially would cause a lot of women to instantaneously almost go, oh, I am too courageous. I see it in a different light now, and immediately almost make shifts and step into that power. Do you find that to be true, or are there more steps of awareness that people need to take before they begin seeing themselves as courageous?
Well, let me ask you something, Laura. Do you have courage?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Okay, so I always say to myself, oh, Sandra, you think you're such a smarty pants. I can read energy, whether I'm seeing the person or talking on the phone. So I knew you did. So everything that you just said, no, most women would not know that little package that you so beautifully said. No, they wouldn't, because when my first book came out and I collected over 750 survey forms across, well, with the help of people across the country, it came back 11%. So I took 2.5 years to interview the quote secrets of those. I thought it'd take a year, but thank goodness I didn't know what I was doing. So 2.5 years, it yielded my book. And if you fast forward, so let's say that was 5 years of research for the first book, and you fast forward to today, I don't think that 11% has increased. So the package that you just beautifully said, no, they wouldn't go, yes, that is the key. That is the linchpin. She just told me, and yippee, now I've got courage, and I'm going to leave that job, and I'm going to go buy that, blah, 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 you know, whatever. I was interviewed by a lady in Britain, and when I told her about the 11%, she looked at me, very seriously. She goes, wow, I wouldn't think it was that high. I just looked at her, Laura. I was like, oh, I just like sunk. I just was like, oh, wow, she didn't think it'd even be that high. So I'd like to say to you that my intuition, not research, that it has gone from 11% up to 43%. Now, let's talk about men.
Yes.
Well, I haven't done the same quantitative research and collection of surveys. It's just been my intuition in interviewing them. I would say somewhere between 43 to 52% of men get courage. Now, why am I accentuating courage? Is because it generally will go, as I said, maybe I didn't say in our culture, to bravery. So again, courage and bravery, you know, are not synonymous terms. I just got a sweet email from a friend who was so excited to share a quote because it had the word courage in it, and it had commingling courage and bravery. So that's another struggle in my calling. This is a calling for me to distinguish from people that bravery is more like physical courage and valor. So I'm going back to that. Our culture is really steeped in physical courage. Well, you know, I had cancer 4 times, and my husband left me, and my son committed suicide. That's not a true story for me, by the way.
No.
But, you know, something sensational, thank God. But so that's part of that holds us back, why they don't get it as beautifully as quickly as you said it.
That completely makes sense, because some of the most courageous people I know, honestly, are women who struggle, where getting up and facing the day with a smile on their face is a challenge. And the woman in particular I'm thinking about is in her 60s. She has MS. She hurts, and she wakes up every day with a smile on her face, and she is present for those she loves. She is not self-sacrificing and hurting herself and doing more than she can do. She just wakes up with this joy in her heart. But the joy in her heart, it's a conscious choice that she makes to be joyful despite everything that's going on. And she is the most courageous person I know. But you're right, that's different. That's not valor. That's not, I woke up and I made 42 meals for people and I cleaned the house. And those are those physical shows that aren't, in a way, authentically courageous. They're more done for show, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does. And you used, once again, it's so delightful to get to connect with somebody who understands the innate heart energy of courage like you do. But we do things, and I always put in spite of in italics. We do it in spite of. And yes, you also said the conscious choice. So much of courage is about getting in our true self. So my hands are walking down the yellow brick road right now, and my true self, where I know, oops, I just fell into a pothole. Oh man, here I am again. But guess what? I know how to get out, and I know how to apply my reservoir of courage. Or another consciousness would be like, wow, I've now swallowed my voice on this issue 3 times. My reservoir of courage is pretty low. I need to have the courage to confess. So one of the things is having a language of courage, and saying, I need to confess to you, is one of those tools that one can use in relinquishing stuff that they're carrying.
Okay. So how does that work? We've got the consciousness that the reservoir of courage is kind of running low, that we're falling into potholes. We've got the grace. We've got the grace to say it's okay. So what do listeners do? What do people do when they start realizing, I've swallowed my voice, I'm not acting courageously here?
Well, you'll begin to recognize that you've got a story that validates a false truth. And so what happens in a false truth is that we keep regenerating the same story, maybe a little bit of a different tune, but basically the same story, the same way, so that we could see how that's true. See, I told you, and so we continue to validate that false truth. So when you can stop the chatter of that false truth, like, well, see, really honestly, my mother always told me I wouldn't amount to anything. Nobody ever told me I was pretty, or nobody, whatever that bedrock of that deepening false truth story is. I was told I was a screw up, and I'm going to always be a screw up. So right. What do I do? Continually lose my job, lose a relationship, get upset with another family member, whatever. And so it gets back to the consciousness and the choosing to want to do it. Because one of the hardest things for me is that I don't have the magic. I really don't have the magic to get women or people to do it. Right.
And that's huge right there, because wouldn't it be so wonderful if I could just call you when I'm feeling not courageous and be like, Sandra, just send over some courage. I need it today. And you could say, that's great, but tomorrow I don't think I'm going to feel like flaunting. Will you send me some flaunt energy? And I'll say, sure. And we could do it for each other, but we really can't do it for each other. We have to do it ourselves, and we can have other people challenge us and say, hey, is that a false story? Or what's up with that? But we have to develop it ourselves.
Yeah, how long are you going to sing that song? How long are you going to sing that song that, that keeps you down? When every day, for me, I try to live in the present and in the gratitude of the small things. And that really keeps one grounded in, like, if people think I'm really silly when I say, I just saw a ladybug. I am really excited when I see a ladybug, or I see something, a little, like today in the grocery store, a little baby with the biggest blue eyes, and I said to the mom, is it okay if I talk to your baby? She goes, sure. It's just the little things. That's your friend with MS, gets up and chooses. She's not a martyr.
No, Not at all.
Not a martyr.
And that's important to distinguish. She's
Yes.
not a martyr.
Yes,
She's
exactly.
choosing joy.
Yeah. And that's a big part of it.
Mm-hmm. So along kind of those same lines, traps and tricks of the human condition, such as denial, uncertainty, and self-doubt.
Apathy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of those are traps that will trap you from being in your courage. And I probably have a couple of more. Those are actually in my second and third book. But
Okay.
apathy, self-doubt, self-neglect, defeat, blame, uncertainty. You know, we think, well, I've got my day planned. I'm in control. I, I know what I'm doing. Get out of my way. 8 o'clock, I'm doing this. But really, every day is a day of uncertainty and a blessing in each moment. So there's blame, there's feeling invisible, intimidation. Intimidation is a big one.
Yes.
But there's actually 12 courage obstacles. And so that's what we just pretty much named. You know, and Laura, I'd like to say to you, this is all stuff I came up with, but it's all from interviewing people and doing research.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm glad that you stepped back and pointed that out too, because I do want listeners to know this is research based. This is not just making something up. And I wonder, and this is how it worked for me. This is what you've seen with people. This is what I've seen with my clients. This is what I've experienced in my own life as well. And along those same lines, you talked about those 12 courage obstacles. I also think for me, and I'm assuming for others as well, but I'll check that in with you, we kind of move in and out of things. There are places in my life where I'm extremely courageous and confident, and there are places in my life where I do find myself getting sucked into self-doubt, or I meet somebody and I am intimidated and I feel that reservoir of courage drying up. And it's not an all or a nothing thing. It fluxes.
Yes.
It's based on a lot of different things, and I think I can address a lot of those different things in different ways if I'm aware of them.
And that's really I try to tell people this is really simple, and you just said it. It's really simple if I'm aware of them. But our culture tends to want to make things complex, convoluted. Oh my gosh, if she doesn't have a matrix that is over my head, how can this be valuable? It is really, really simple, and it's a choice to do that, and to know, okay, I fell into the pothole, but that's not going to happen again because this is my life. And as an 11th hour hospice volunteer, what I see of people struggling with their misgivings, their anger, their all of that of their life, because none of us know when our time is going to come. Which is why I wrote an article called "In My 11th Hour, I Wish I'd Had More Courage," and it's an up article. So if you think, oh my gosh, no, it's what I've observed being a hospice volunteer in this research, and it just came to me a few years ago, and it's still valid today. But it is an up article to basically live in that courage centeredness right now.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, and Laura, I just got to say, and because it's simple, say the word.
The courage.
Word. Do you know when I've asked men, men will say, well, my mother has courage. And I'll say, well, is your mother alive? And in this situation, it was yes. And I said, so I'm just curious, Eric, would you, in whatever appropriate time and conversation, would you please ask your Mom, do you have courage? But you got to promise you'll call me and tell me. Now, just like I knew you had courage, I know exactly what the response is going to be because it's happened every time. They call me up or somebody about their wife or whatever, and in this situation, it was, no, honey, I just did what I had to do.
Right.
The first things is learn to say the word and teach it to your children. Distinguish it with your children. The distinction of their convictions and values. Speaking up. It's just important to do it. It's not just about physical. Get in there and whip that kid. No, it's about how can you teach them to come from their heart and stand in their true self?
And I love that you mentioned that with regards to